Hello, everyone. This is Dating After Loss, What You Didn't Know You Needed to Know. This is from the San Antonio Widower Conference in November of 2024. I actually named it this because I introduce a lot of concepts to people that haven't dated in years that they didn't know, that they find helpful actually. And then at the end of this, I actually um, put in frequently asked questions because it actually made it easier to introduce some other topics that people generally don't know about. So hang in there till the end. My name is Sharon Collier. I am a certified life and relationship coach. I actually certified in both. I have been researching love and attraction for nearly a decade. And if you know me already, you know my story that I put myself out after a year. I waited a year and put myself out. I was 38 years old and I went out and made all the common mistakes. And I had to figure out why. I would attach myself to some really unfavorable men. I did the clingy needy thing. I did a whole bunch of just the regular mistakes, but I had to figure out why I was constantly attracted to or attracting these men. And so that was part of my research. And I became a coach almost 6 years ago, and I have loved it, honestly. But I am passing that information on to everybody. I do coach on the phone. There's ways to find me at the end. A lot of out-of-state people say, I coach with you, but I don't live near you. And it's all done on the phone, even if you do live near me. So go ahead and reach out if you think you need some coaching. I am half of the Date to Your Potential podcast on Spotify. Tons of information. We've done 100 episodes. If you search for it, you do need to search for the Date to Your Potential podcast. You will see this picture in a square, smaller form, but we are on Spotify. I'm also part of the Dating University team. This is local to Utah and it is live and interactive. We play games, we interact male and female. Um, we try to make it really fun. If you know me, I have a yellow personality. I think learning and life should be fun. Um, and there's more information on that at the end, I believe, as well. Okay, things you didn't know you needed to know. Okay, some common dating mistakes. I just talked about a few. Okay, but I've talked to some widows and widowers and that have been married and divorced, and some of these were theirs as well. Okay, dating too soon. I'm going to talk about widow fog in a minute, but dating too soon, um, you have to ask yourself why you want to date. Is it to medicate your grief? Is it to fill the hole in your heart? Are you just extra lonely? A lot of times I'll say, well, what makes you think you're ready to date? And the response I get is, it's just time. Why is it just time? Is it because you're lonely? Is it because marriage is your normal and you need to get back into the normal? We want to make sure we're in a really good place when we start dating. So dating too soon can be a common mistake. Okay, assuming everyone is honest and trustworthy. Okay, most of us got married and, married our high school sweetheart, college sweetheart, and there was nothing to really untrust about people. People weren't full of baggage back then, like they are in situations in a remarriage situation. Um, and even widows and widowers can carry some different kinds of baggage that, divorced people do that doesn't necessarily look like bitterness and anger. So we need to not just assume, we need to do our research with people and not just assume they are honest and trustworthy. Rushing to check boxes, you have an immediate attraction with somebody or a mutual strong attraction, and then you just think this is it, but we have to check all these boxes. So it's like, well, let's go meet the parents and let's introduce the kids, and we have to check all the boxes, all the normal things, so we, can get married. So you never want to rush anything when you're talking about a second or third marriage. Okay, making out more than talking. I maintain this. In most cases, once a couple starts making out, they stop communicating so much. They can medicate, they can stuff stuff under the rug by making out. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that now. Let's just make out. Now, let me just clarify. Kissing is different than making out. Okay, but once you start getting hot and heavy in the affection area, communication usually stops. So make sure that you keep that in check. Put boundaries on the affection, the intense affection, and continue to date. You still want to go out and date and have fun experiences together. Okay, not taking enough time to really get to know a person. So let me just tell you, it takes 50 hours, so the experts say, to make a friend. 50 hours to make a friend. So let's say you're going on 3 2-hour dates a week with a person. That's 6 hours. So people really rush into things thinking they know a person, or we tend to make stuff up as we go along. We're absolutely positive we know who this person is. I'm going to talk about the infatuation period. We literally know about 20% of who a person is in the first 4 months. I will get into that in a bit. Okay, not establishing communication skills or conflict resolution skills before marriage. This is a common mistake. You need to know how to communicate even when you're dating. And if you have an argument, not brush things under a rug, because you marry who you date and you don't want that kind of communication style. So it's good to establish that while you are dating. Conflict will arise. What do they say? Conflict is inevitable, but fighting is optional. Conflict will arise, and you need to show each other that you can handle this in a marriage situation by handling it in a dating situation and handling it well. Okay, ignoring red flags. Sometimes when we have this super strong attraction, people will tell me all the time, we had this magical connection, we both felt it. A lot of times that's just attraction. That's the level of attraction you have for one another. And it's really easy to ignore red flags when you're so happy with everything else. Okay, I call this looking for love in all the wrong places. Maybe that's not a great title for it, but we're going to talk about things I hear when people, this is a good way to make mistakes. Um, it's kind of desperate, and nobody wants to think that they are desperate. People tell me all the time, I am not desperate, and they are doing very desperate things. And I don't know kind of what else to call it, but when people tell me, I'm just tired of being alone. Okay, you don't want to put yourself out there when you are just tired of being alone. Or, I'm just tired of taking care of everything by myself. I need a mother or father for my kids. I can't survive financially on my own, or I just really want to be married again. Okay, if this is your mindset, this is not a good place to be in while you're looking for someone, because you will find someone, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right someone or it's somebody that you can really live with. Okay, love chemicals. This was huge in my journey, is learning that love and attraction is a lot of chemicals in our brain, a lot of neural pathways, the way that we think about love. So I wanted to talk about those for a minute. There's our pheromonal response, oxytocin, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin. We've all heard of a lot of these, right? Let's talk about our pheromonal response first. Okay, this is what we call our physical attraction. Okay, it's an invisible smell that kind of comes in through our nose, and it gives us different levels of attraction to somebody. Okay, and a lot of times if it's very powerful, it can be mistaken for love when you have a very strong attraction. So when I talk about attraction, it's like, how can I think that man is good looking but not really be attracted to them? Or how do I think this girl is so pretty and not really connect on an attraction level, because there's different levels of pheromones that we give off or take in. So, like, let's say out of 100, you have friend zoned somebody because even though they're attractive and you have the same sense of humor, the attraction level, the pheromone response is maybe at a 20 or maybe at a 5. And that's not enough to really have a relationship with. But if you're both at like a 95, this can be mistaken for love, and it's something that you really need to watch out for. You still need to um, make sure there's a lot of compatibility and that you have the same value system and that you're going the same direction in life. We can't just rely on our pheromonal response. Okay, there's some other types of attraction. Of course, we just talked about physical. You can be attracted to somebody spiritually, mentally, emotionally, of course, visually. Um, somebody that you connect with that you really just like you're on the same level maybe spiritually or mentally, somebody who stimulates you intellectually, emotionally, somebody who just gets you right off the bat, gets your sense of humor, just gets the way you think. Um, and of course, visual. But you can have, if you have spiritual, mental, emotional, and visual without the physical, this is what we call the friend zone. Okay, you need several different areas of attraction to make a relationship work. Okay, attachment, and better yet, oxytocin and attachment. Um, Attachment, a lot of times we think we're in love and we're just really attached to a person. So I wanted to make sure we talk about this. Oxytocin, they call it the hug or touch hormone, the kissing hormone, being affectionate. It's very bonding. Women who nurse their babies start spewing oxytocin, and it bonds them to their babies. And it can be mistaken for love. So oxytocin is why your guy friends, ladies, will ask you, or men, how come I can't kiss a girl without her thinking that we're getting married, that we should be ring shopping? Okay, oxytocin actually spews 3 to 9 times more in women than it does in men. A man can kiss a lady, a man, and think, oh, that was a nice kiss, where a lady is, shooting off fireworks, depending on the man, the attraction level, and the kiss, right? So something that we need to be aware of, because one kiss oftentimes doesn't mean much. Definitely doesn't mean we're getting married. Okay, takes 30 days to wear off. If you've ever heard of the 30-day breakup rule, this is why. This means you take 30 days after a breakup of no contact, no Facebook stalking, no riding by their house on a bicycle, nothing. No calling their family and asking how they are, no nothing. You just take 30 days and have no contact, and it's going to help actually the breakup. Okay, dopamine and attachment, of course. We're still talking about attachment. Um, we get this by spew dopamine by being affectionate. Dopamine actually tickles our reward center. So, like dopamine, why do they call drugs dope? Because of dopamine. So, dopamine and affection, this, you can get addicted to a relationship like you are addicted to um, drugs, and like crack cocaine. And so that's why breakups are so hard, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, you can start spewing dopamine just by spending a lot of time with somebody or getting comfortable. You actually get kind of addicted to the routine, the good morning sunshine, the good morning handsome text, the made it home, thanks for a great day, love you, or whatever the text says at night, or you get attached to the routine. Okay, it stimulates your reward centers and makes you feel addicted. And once again, this can be mistaken for love when you get really attached to somebody. This is why you'll watch your girlfriend or your guy friend just go back to an abusive relationship or a relationship that just isn't going to work. And they keep going back and they keep going back. It's because it is a very strong addiction ish chemical in your brain. And so you need to be aware of that when you, especially like you have an on again, off again thing. It's, if nothing ever changes, this on again, off again thing is never going to work. Something has to change in between breakups for this on again, off again thing. Otherwise, you're just riding on dopamine and going back to the same situation over and over and over again. Okay, this is why breakups are hard. Okay, norepinephrine, this is the butterflies or that swelling feeling. Sometimes, like when you feel the spirit and that, so, like the swelling in your chest, like your heart's going to explode. Okay, norepinephrine is very exciting. This is when we're in infatuation, which is just fun and exciting. That phase of the relationship, that new beginning, very, very, very fun and exciting, but it can also be mistaken for love. I had somebody tell me, I figured when I started feeling that swelling feeling, I started recognizing, I think this was after his third marriage, that it really wasn't love. That's just excitement. And that's our norepinephrine. Okay, and serotonin. All these things help us stimulate serotonin. Love really makes us happy. When we're in love, my husband had bipolar disorder, And it eventually went from bipolar to like borderline schizophrenia to schizophrenia. But when we were dating, people would tell me they had never seen him so happy. And I should have clarified my late husband. And this is why, because love makes us happy. He was happy all the time. He was never depressed. Um, and there's different places where hormones change in relationships. And very normal, at 8 months, he was no longer happy. The relationship no longer made him happy. But unfortunately, we were already married at that point. Okay, love makes serotonin makes us happy when we're in love, but it can also make us sad when we break up. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Infatuation. Infatuation is so fun. And there's nothing wrong with infatuation unless you hang in there just too long with it. This is the rose-colored glasses phase. This is where you're not really seeing the true person. Um, this is when you just think everything they do is wonderful, even if it's bad, you can just ignore that. A lot of people say after the 4 to 5 month period, that's on there, 4 to 5 months, um, that they started having problems. But as they looked back, they could see the problems were there the whole time. They just had those rose-colored glasses on and just were able to ignore them. So really important to watch infatuation. Some people will base love on it because it makes you feel as though you are in love. It's very exciting. Infatuated people that keep a relationship going, that make it work, a lot of times the causes are extreme loneliness or maybe some low self-esteem, the need for validation. They're better off in a bad relationship than no relationship. So we need to be careful with this. It is exciting and it is thrilling and it is wonderful. And that's great. You need to feel all that, but you also need to recognize, you need to keep your head on straight and recognize if there are really issues in this relationship. And when the hormones do drop around 4 to 5 months, you really need to start evaluating if your feelings are not the same. It's like I remember in high school, most of my boyfriends, I had a 4 month capacity for infatuation. Then it was like, have you always chewed that loud? Do you really breathe that loud? All these little things that were all of a sudden just really annoying to me. So watch our infatuation. Okay, limerence. Okay, I call this fake love. Limerence is obsessing, um, like fetal attraction obsessing. It's fantasizing. It's a constant. This is when you are thinking about this person morning, noon, and night. And oftentimes you're making up who a person really is. They call it a halo effect, where if you see them do something kind, that you just decide they're a kind person. Even though they may not be doing kind things all the time, you just saw them do one thing that was kind. And they can give you little breadcrumbs of nice things, but you just assume that they're wonderful and they know how to do this relationship. This is an extreme and intense infatuation, we'll call it. Be very, very careful. A lot of times this makes you chase somebody that you normally would not chase. Um, this is stalkers get into limerence because they have in their head made up stories about really who this person is when they really don't know them. It's like thinking you're in love with a celebrity kind of thing, like somebody that you don't know, but you're positive that they're just the best person and that they're just going to want to hang out with you and that they like doing all the things that you do. So if you're feeling intense feelings and you feel out of control and you find yourself chasing and doing odd things, this could be limerence. It's really good to keep your head on straight. If you need professional help, seek out professional help. Okay, let's move on to red flags. I put red flags in every presentation because without fail, somebody will come up to me after a class and say, wow, I didn't really realize about the red flags. Once again, we're going back to um, maybe college or high school when they met their sweetheart. And, red flags really weren't a thing. There just wasn't a lot of baggage that people were carrying around. But let's talk about them really quick. Okay, common red flags are just general bad behaviors. Okay, lying, cheating, disrespectful or mean. Remember that you marry who you date. Okay, so if they can't behave when you're dating, they're definitely not going to behave after they're married. Okay, lazy and no ambition. People don't really see this as a red flag, but I know countless women who married a guy that did not have a job, that they were kind of carrying things because love was exciting and he made all these promises, and he um, never wanted to get one. And I've also known men who married ladies who made all these promises about the kids and just were lazy with no ambition and couldn't even take care of the kids properly, and their marriage ended up in divorce. So if somebody is lazy and has no ambition, this really is a red flag. Okay, no compatibility. People, again, do not see no compatibility as a red flag, but you need something besides kissing and affection to base the relationship on. And a lot of times, like I said before, the making out, a lot of times people just get into that. We're in a desert, we're not getting affection. So when we get it, it's like this huge drink of water, right? And we don't want to like ever move away from the pool now. So no compatibility, just keep your head on straight. If you're not going the same direction in life, if you have nothing in common, if conversations are even a struggle, just be aware. No compatibility is a red flag. Okay, somebody who's aggressive or picking fights. Somebody's baggage is showing. Just be careful with this one. Okay, if you find yourself always complaining about a person, this is a huge red flag. Even if you have a great time when you're together and everything, when you're apart and you're complaining, I tell people start writing it down and looking at it. And if you're not willing to approach the person about it and you think you just have to brush stuff under the rug, that is a problem. And I call that a red flag. Okay, scammers. Scammers tend to target widows and widowers because they think we all get life insurance, right? So here's just some ways that people try to scam. Okay, they will want to rush into a relationship. They will say something like, "Is it too soon to say I love you?" If you, especially like if you've just been chatting online, yeah, it's too soon. If you haven't met in person, it's way too soon to say I love you. Okay, or they will say I love you too soon before you even meet in person. They will ask you to keep the relationship a secret. Okay, you've got your rose-colored glasses on, you've been lonely or chatting with someone, you're dating somebody, but your friends and family do not have their rose-colored glasses on. So oftentimes they will ask you to keep the relationship a secret. Will ask you for money, sometimes not in an obvious way. Sometimes they might make a hint or get in a bind where you think you have to send them money or they're going to go to prison or they're stuck at customs or whatever it is. Or they will make you think they have money by transferring money into your account and having you transfer the money somewhere else. And this is called money laundering, and it's very common. Do not do it, it's a felony. Okay, well, they will give you lots of personal information about themselves in hopes that you will spill a bunch of personal information about yourself. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves? Most people like to talk about themselves. So they give a whole bunch of information, and so you feel like you can spill because they just trusted you with their information, so they must be trustworthy for us to spill to them, right? No, do not give information out about yourself. I went out a couple times with a guy who got the street I grew up in and my mother's maiden name and general conversation. Just really easy general conversation. And that night after the date, I realized, oh my gosh, I gave him so much information about myself. So I had to go in and change a bunch of passwords. Okay, will be charming and give you an abnormal amount of compliments. You know yourself. If you're getting compliments on things that you know are not true, even if you want them to be true, be careful with this one. Okay? Of course, they're trying to win you over and they're wonderful, but you know yourself. So don't take compliments that aren't true. And not in a deflective, oh no, I'm not all that cute kind of way. But if you know a compliment is way far off, or they shouldn't have that kind of information on you already, beware. They are usually too good to be true. They like all the things that you like. They like all the movies, all the amusement parks, all whatever it is that you like, they like them too, coincidentally. So if somebody's too good to be true, nobody is too good to be true. Nobody is perfect, right? But if they all of a sudden are just agreeing with everything and you have everything in common, that is literally a red flag. Okay, often they are posing as a military as a military or a doctor or an oil rig worker. A lot of times they have a dog in the picture, or a little girl or a little boy. They're widowed, so you know have some sympathy. Do not fall for this. Especially on Facebook, if they have no friends, if the profile is brand new, a lot of times they are a scammer. Okay, and if you're chatting with someone who says they are from California and Idaho and they have broken English, there is a red flag right there. Um, a lot of people will say, "Hey, I've been chatting with this guy. You need to see this conversation." And I'm like, "Why are they from California and Idaho? Or why are they from Oregon and Washington and they have such broken English?" So watch out for that one as well. Okay, somebody who is low interest and they're not invested in the relationship. Before we start, I just want to say this is not a person that you need to toss aside. This is just a person that you date casually. If they are not invested, even if they say you're exclusive and you are not getting very much attention, this is a person that isn't really interested in you. Maybe they like the way you validate them. Maybe they like saying they have somebody, but this is not a person that you commit to. And this is really hard when you really, really like someone and you're just kind of waiting around for them to be on the same level as you. It can be so hard. But I'm telling you, do not invest more than a person is investing. Okay, you want to be equal in a relationship and reciprocal. Okay, you are feeling like you're putting more into the relationship than they are. You're making the dinner plans, you're reaching out every day, you're trying to get them to have a conversation. You feel like the backup plan, not the plan. Yeah, sure, we can hang out this weekend if I'm done with, my family reunion. Or yeah, I thought I'd go do guy night, or I thought I'd go do girl night. So after that, yeah, if there's time, we can hang out. So if you're feeling like you're not the plan and first priority, that is a sign of low interest. Okay, frequent canceling. I'm getting ahead of myself. They're just not that interested that they would be canceling frequently. They're just made other plans. Okay, little to no communication through the day. Now, some people do get busy, and some people are like, "I'm so sorry, we're moving my company," and they really are busy. But generally speaking, people have time for what they want. Okay, people have a lunch hour they can text you in. There's all sorts of situations. So keep an eye on that one. Won't introduce you to friends or family. You're just not that important. They treat you like a dying plant. You only get watered when you're drooping. In other words, when they see you pulling away in the relationship, they'll step up a little bit. But that's really the only time they do step up. "Oh, hey, I haven't been very attentive. Let me take you out to dinner Saturday," and they actually do make plans. But more likely than not, they will go back into the same patterns, okay? Do not invest in this person. I cannot stress it enough. You can casually date them, but do not wait around for them to come around. Casually date them while you date other people. Okay. Okay. Serious red flags. Do not proceed. Okay. These are people that are narcissists or sociopaths. We hear those buzzwords too much, or these are just tendencies. I love how everybody diagnoses their ex. Guys usually say, "What? She was crazy," and girls have them all diagnosed. I think they had borderline personality disorder. Okay, these are all symptoms of all those, and sometimes they're just symptoms of somebody who was raised by maybe a narcissist or someone who just didn't care or was just very selfish. So these are definitely do not proceed. Okay, someone who tries to control you, somebody who would seclude you from family and friends. Okay, secluding you from family and friends is kind of control, but once again, your family and friends do not have rose-colored glasses on like you do. Okay, and nobody should be telling you what to do and what not to do, or what to wear, or where to go, or where not to go. Okay, we'll be super charming one minute and then mean the next. If you watch somebody being mean to another human being, I guarantee you that meanness will turn around to you one day. So you watch that. Okay, we'll turn things around so it appears to be your fault, which is gaslighting. We'll knock you down a few notches if you're succeeding. Some people see themselves as above you, and if you start progressing in life, they will knock you down because they don't want you passing them up. Okay, will manipulate you to stretch your boundaries, not because they don't like your boundary, but just to see if they can. And once somebody has stretched your boundaries or has broken a boundary, they will break more and more boundaries because your boundaries just don't mean anything. So it's very, very important that you stick to your boundaries. Okay, we'll give you a really good apology, but their behavior doesn't change. Or it changes for a couple weeks and once again they go back into old patterns. Changing patterns in behaviors is really hard, especially if someone has grown up around that kind of behavior. It is extremely hard. So watch, people are definitely patterns. If they can behave for a couple weeks and they go back into old patterns of not behaving, that is a huge red flag. Also, the ups and downs and the drama of this gets addictive, and and that's really hard to let go of, the ups and downs, because you're like, yay, they're being responsive and they're being really cool and nice, and then you go back into down bad behavior, and then you go up again into this good behavior, and it's super exciting. Be very careful. Um, they make you question yourself or just not like yourself. Are you starting to feel like maybe you're crazy or you just don't like who you are around them? Just be careful. We'll tell you that you're too sensitive, or even laugh if they insult you. Telling jokes at your expense is never good, and them laughing at it and telling you you're too sensitive is, of course, not good. These relationships will oftentimes start out really happy. And so because you're really happy, you kind of start letting things slide. And also, love bombing. Um, my late husband used to say things to me when we were dating. If things didn't work out with us, I'd want you to date Brian Braithwaite. He was our neighbor, or his neighbor across the street, because Brian's just really cool. He needs someone cool like you. Of course, that pumped me up, you know, who wouldn't? So these extra compliments and the extra good behavior and the flowers and the chocolates and all the romantic things, if you're being love bombed, this will show up later on in dating. They cannot keep this up. They will not. They can't keep it up longer than 8 or 9 months. So this is why time is really important. But these are things. Do not proceed. Okay, Jeffrey R. Holland said it, not me. Super important. In a dating or courtship relationship, I would not have you spend 5 minutes with someone who belittles you, one who is constantly critical, one who is cruel at your expense, and may even call it humor. Life is tough enough without having the person who is supposed to love you lead the assault on your self-esteem, sense of dignity, your confidence, and your joy. The quote is actually longer. It goes on. Very important, okay? Jeffrey R. Holland saying it. Bad behavior does not belong in a relationship. Are you going to get a perfect person? No, but this person should acknowledge their bad behavior, take responsibility for it, and apologize. Okay, let's move into the frequently asked questions portion. Okay, frequently asked question. How do I know if I am ready to date? Okay, this is widower specific. You are through the widow fog. Okay, you probably can't see very well, but the eggs say that they're sunny side up. I love that they made breakfast out of a brain. Life is sweet, the little berries, the bacon sizzling. I can't see what the coffee says, but everything's pretty happy over here on the front. It says tasty. So everything is a sizzling, well-oiled machine. Now, widow fog, if you look at the big in the middle part, it says, sorry, all we've got is scrambled. Okay. And then in the frontal lobe, it says your cognitive ability left over to get dressed, write a grocery list, and drive to the store. But you get to only pick one. Your brain is only processing. Your frontal lobe, that is responsible for logic and all sorts of other important things, is only processing one thing at a time. Your brain is so overwhelmed with grief that it can literally only process one thing at a time. Okay, this is not a good time to make decisions. I cannot stress it enough. They say widow fog lasts anywhere from 8 months to a year. If there has been a traumatic death, widow fog can last longer. Okay, and some people watch their spouse die of cancer and it's still just as traumatic as if they just died suddenly in a car accident. So you have to gauge this for yourself, because I put myself out there at a year and I feel like I was in widow fog for at least 2 years. probably more. So this is not a good time to be making any kind of decisions. I bought a really big house thinking that was gonna medicate us, that was gonna make us all happy. I bought it in 2007 and then the market dropped and it wasn't worth anything and I couldn't sell it for many, many years. Okay, do not make big decisions while you are in widow's fog. Okay, your life is a blank canvas. What will you do with this? We're going to talk about it in a second. Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. Okay, this widowhood is such a conflict because all of a sudden your life is a blank canvas and you're supposed to do something with it. But it's not really exciting that it's a blank canvas, is it? Because what you're going to accomplish in your life ahead um, is it conflicting with what you lost. But it is a great opportunity to create yourself. I waited till my kids were grown and all graduated before I got my life coaching certificate. Okay, living your best life. What does that look like? You have balanced fun and adventure in your life. One of our human needs is actually fun and adventure. Um, you're joyfully growing. You are picking your own goals and purposely growing. And I say joyfully growing, I'm not saying begrudgingly growing, doing things you don't want to do. Oh, I have to get a job and I have to go to school now. This is things that you want to do. Hopefully, you are joyfully growing. This is setting goals and accomplishing them. Okay, you are good with God. Okay, if you are living your best life, you are good with God. This is hard because God took away a lot of our spouses. Now, He did not take away mine because mine was suicide. So I didn't really have anger issues with God, but I have talked to plenty of people who do. Make sure that you are good with God. Okay, God never leaves us, we leave Him. So make sure that you are good with God. Okay, you are taking care of yourself physically and emotionally. Okay, emotionally is just as important as physically. If you are having a hard time coping with your grief and getting things done, of course, in the first stages, everybody does. But if you feel like you should be getting past some things, get some help. Okay, you look and feel your best. And maybe you just feel your best. Even if you don't look your best, maybe we can overlook that and feel your best. You need to feel good about yourself and confident. Okay, having fulfilling hobbies and interests. Okay, this is a way of how you're moving forward in life is that you're looking forward to doing some of these things or you're looking forward to learning something new. But you need something that you enjoy to help you pass time where you're not just sitting and grieving. Okay, you are developing and sharing your talents. We all have this need for significance and to be seen and heard. One of the best ways to do that is sharing your talents. So, plus developing and sharing your talents, like Heavenly Father gave us our talents. Let's develop them and hopefully share them and to bring others some joy, right? Or to bring you some joy. Okay, you have a strong, healthy community. People need people. Now, if you're an introvert, you're like sometimes people you, right? But you do it on your level. An introvert, their community might be going to a small group lunch or a one-on-one lunch more than a party all the time, right? However you feel the sense of community and friendship and things like that. This is really healthy to a single person's life. Okay, you are financially stable. You are not looking for a spouse because you cannot handle things financially. You need to be financially stable on your own. And you are, of course, taking care of your kids and their needs. Your house and kids are super important. You need to be taking care of those as well. Okay, questions to ask yourself maybe before you put yourself out there. Are you medicating with dating? We kind of talked about this earlier. Am I okay on my own? Maybe it doesn't work out and maybe you don't ever get married. Are you okay on your own? Am I ready for rejection and disappointment? Okay, rejection and disappointment are hard, especially after you've had such a big loss. This is just another loss if relationships don't work out. Am I ready to be physical with somebody else? If the thought of holding somebody else's hand besides your spouse's, or maybe kissing someone besides your spouse, if that's still grossing you out, if that is super unappealing, maybe you're just not ready to date. Okay, let's move along to the next one. What do I do after a breakup? Because breakups are hard. This is why it's really good to wait to date. Now, I've met a lot of well, probably more men than women who say, "Oh, my sweetheart told me not to wait around and to get married." Okay, this is important that you do not just put yourself out there so fast because rejection hurts. You don't want to go through grief and grief again and grief again. A breakup is like grief times two. And so we want to be careful, right? And spend some time really getting ourselves ready. But what do we do after a breakup anyways? Okay, this is what's happening in your body. All your good chemicals, we talked about all the happy chemicals, they abruptly stop. All your attachment chemicals remain. This is that dopamine that makes you feel addicted, or that oxytocin that makes you feel attached. Okay, they remain, but all the serotonin, the norepinephrine, all that good stuff, that stops. Okay, and it leaves you what? Feeling lonely and sad, right? Okay, a breakup with rejection. This is when they've broken up with you. Um, it stimulates the same pain centers in your brain as maybe falling down or skinning your knee, or knocking your elbow. As physical pain to your body, it stimulates the same pain centers. Okay, and of course it makes us wonder what we did wrong and fills you with self-doubt. Maybe if I was cuter, or maybe if I was smarter, maybe if I was funnier. Okay, breakups with rejection are just hard. They actually did a study with the pain centers, and I don't know how they gauge the levels of rejection, but they took a big study group of rejected people, I guess. I'm like, I don't know how they found these people, but you can look up the study online. They gave half of them a placebo and half of them like an ibuprofen, something that dulls the pain centers, and the people on the ibuprofen actually did better. So rejection does hurt, but I thought that was an interesting fact. So this is what's going on in your body after a breakup. So this is where you give yourself a lot of grace too, because you think you're the only person in the world that's feeling this way, or you're feeling like you're just being a big baby, or you shouldn't be feeling this lonely or whatever. No, rejection hurts, breakups hurt. It's just a fact. Okay, what do I do with all these negative feelings, right? You feel them. It's just another grief period. Okay, then you start keeping busy doing constructive things or things you love. I've heard like in movies, people say, "Oh, I used to love working with wood, but then I got a divorce and that just never was the same." No, you always go back to doing the things you love. Don't let the negativity ruin the things that you love. Okay, make sure you are practicing self-care. Get yourself up, get yourself showered. Um, Clean clothes, smell good. You want to make sure you are taking good care of yourself. Sometimes that might mean taking a break and having a bubble bath and a good cry, but take care of yourself. Okay, laughing with friends. You want to replace some of those the hormones and chemicals that are missing. Laughing with friends creates serotonin. Okay, that's a good way to replace that and to feel better for a few minutes. Exercising, same thing. Your serotonin levels. Oh, I just touched something. Okay, you need to realize that dopamine is a liar. Okay, your dopamine is telling you go back to that person, contact this person, that you feel addicted to the person. Maybe it makes you think, oh, I can handle all these bad things about them. Dopamine is a liar. Okay, and then realize this is part of the process. Okay, once again, you're going to give yourself grace. This is part of the process. You're having some really negative feelings. You're being really hard on yourself. You might be crying a lot. It's part of the process, and you need to give yourself grace until you make it through it. Okay, next question. How can I have strong feelings for someone and they do not have strong feelings for me? Let's explore this. Okay, we know our attraction. Our attraction is, well, it's a lot like compatibility. We're going to talk about both. We have the physical attraction, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, right? We have all these um, ways that we're attracted to the person, right? They may not have the same levels of any of this part of attraction than we do. So maybe sometimes it's just physical attraction, maybe even though they deny it. No, I think you're really great and I am attracted to you, whatever. So sometimes the attraction isn't on the same level, and that's, can kind of make it hard. It's like, oh, well, the relationship isn't going to work. Why is my attraction, my pheromonal response, more than somebody else's? One of the questions I'm asking Heavenly Father when we get to heaven. I have no idea. Okay, compatibility. This one's going to make a little more sense than the attraction because I actually have kind of an explanation for it. But first, I wanted to talk about compatibility because just in general, compatibility is really important to know. There's several areas that we need to be compatible in. Of course, we're not going to be compatible in all the areas, but let's talk about a few. Okay, recreational. I wasn't kind of sure what else to call this. Your hobbies and interests, the things you like to do for fun, the things you like to do in your spare time. Okay, you need to be compatible in this area because um, fun is a part of life, especially if you have a yellow personality like me. Okay, I actually met a guy and his interests were fishing and reading. Those were his top two. Okay, he was extremely hard to date. Um, we would go out and do things, but after the first couple dates, he just wanted to sit and watch movies. Okay, I'm not a fisher person. I don't eat fish. That was kind of off the table. So we really didn't, recreationally, we didn't have a lot in common. And I just couldn't imagine leaving him behind all the time to just go have fun. Super good guy, just not the same level, the same interest in fun that we just weren't compatible there. So, I mean, it really is important that you do have some fun things in common. One of my girlfriends married a guy and she goes, well, he's into all these extreme things. And I'm like, well, you're into all these extreme things. And they have a blast together. They're cliff jumping. They're doing all these extreme things together, four wheeling and stuff. So it's great to be compatible in that area. Okay, emotional. Um, Somebody who gets you versus somebody who just doesn't get you. Have you ever met somebody who just doesn't get you? They don't understand you. They don't understand how you react to things. It's illogical to them. Somebody who gets you emotionally. Emotional compatibility is actually kind of important. Um, let's move along to intellectual. This is again somebody who gets you like intellectually, that you can have stimulating conversations together. Just really kind of important that you're kind of on the same level. Some people are lower in the intellect and higher in the emotional. It's like you want to be compatible in, you know, most of these areas. Financial. Do you have the same financial goals? Are you both serious spenders and not savers? That could be dangerous. Are you both serious savers and never spend? Another thing that can be dangerous, right? Do you have the same views on money, um, on spending and saving and investing and the future? Make sure that that is an area that you are compatible in. Spiritual and religious. As LDS people, of course, this is really important. I used to think I could go to church by myself if I could marry a non-member because I, went to church by myself all the time anyways. And then I started thinking I really want somebody who's just excited about the scriptures as I am, or excited about a really good conference, general conference like I am. And so it's just kind of important to be on the same page with that one. Okay, values and goals. So important. Maybe not goals. Maybe goals would kind of come together like after marriage, but are your values on the same page? Okay, people grow up in different houses and take on different values, and what's important um, to some families may not be important to others. Or maybe you kind of went in a different direction in a marriage, and it's really hard to be compatible if there was some dishonesty or things going on. So make sure your values are the same. This is like kind of like spiritual and religious, right? Okay, physical compatibility. Um, Very important. This is our pheromonal response, right? We don't want someone to have a 20 and someone to have a 100. Okay, you need to be um, physically compatible. And also, this is a conversation you have like right before marriage, right? About intimacy and things. Okay, this is how I like to explain compatibility. Mel Robbins was interviewing a lady and she had this, and it was like, oh my gosh, it all of a sudden makes sense. Okay, the circle is a person and the square is a person. So the circle is completely fulfilled in this relationship. There are no gaps. It's just completely full. But the square you can see has some corners showing. The square is not completely fulfilled in this relationship. And so this is a good kind of explanation of compatibility. Why some relationships, why am I really into this person and they're really not into me? Well, they're just not quite there yet. They're the square. You're the circle. You're fulfilled. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, forced compatibility. And I did a skit with Jeff, and too bad we can't do it. People force compatibility. People force things that they have in common. They try to make up things that they would have in common. Maybe they've started making out in the relationship. They've got this huge physical connection and really, really want to get married. I always say that. Two people who really, really want to get married will get married. We'll find a way. Forced compatibility is when you literally like stretch the things you have in common, maybe stretch the truth in that area. Um, we like the same kind of music when in reality you both just like you only have one music group in common that you really like. Okay, we do not want to force compatibility. The skit was, do you like water? And do you like eating? You know, it's like, wow, we have things in common. Um, we actually did it. I had a few people do it in St. George years and years ago, but it is forcing the compatibility. You never want to do that. You want to have legitimate things in common. And if someone is just rolling along and agreeing with you and saying they have these things in common, test it out. Um, if they like hiking, they say, oh yeah, I love hiking. Take them on a hike and see if they really, really love hiking. Ask them where they've hiked. And maybe they know some hiking places, so it's probably just a good idea to take them on a hike and see if they really like hiking if you're passionate about hiking. Whatever you're passionate about, take them when you're dating and just make sure and see how they do. Okay, why do I get so nervous when I talk to my crush? Okay, it's because we have all these fluttery hormones that make us brain dead, right? Uh, let's talk about the approach. Let's make ourselves a little more confident in this area so that we can talk to the crush. Okay, be confident. Okay, slow down. Slow down. Slow down and breathe. You have time to think. You have a time to think of a question. You have time to think of a response. Um, Slow down. This shows confidence. Okay, you don't want to rush through a meeting with this person that you like. You just want to slow down and be in their person with them, right? In their time. Um, Smile and be positive. Okay, you want to talk about positive things. How are you doing? Oh, well, I broke my toe and it's having a hard time and I probably should go sit down. Okay, you want to smile and be positive. They want a good experience talking to you. Okay, good eye contact. I think I put that later on too. Act interested. If you're making eye contact, you're acting interested in what they're saying. Um, Introduce yourself. Um, Tell them your name or where you might know them from. Maybe if you don't know each other, or maybe where you met them before, or anything like that. Okay, compliment them, but not necessarily on their looks. Maybe on their achievements, on their intelligence, on their sense of humor. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. I had no idea you were so funny. We should talk more. Okay, validate. Oh my gosh, that must have been so hard for you. Or, oh my gosh, that must have been so exciting. You must be so proud. Validation in the conversation. Find things in common. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you love mountain biking too. I love mountain biking. I've been mountain biking since they made mountain bikes. Okay, things in common. Okay, hold eye contact, act interested. We talked about that. And if you're having a conversation, end it on a high note. Don't wait till things get weird and awkward. You're at a party and you're having a good conversation and be like, oh my gosh, great. So fun talking to you. Hey, I'm going to run over and talk to so and so. But I'd love to talk to you later. That conversation is on a high note. They probably do want to talk to you later because that was a pleasant conversation. Okay, once again, knowing some of these things is going to help you be a little more confident when you talk to your crush. Okay, conversation starters. Ask about something you already know a little about them. So um, I met a guy from Texas, Craig, at the Houston, actually we met before then, but at the Houston conference, he was asking about my dogs because I said I have big dogs and he likes Great Danes. He goes, my kids are dying and my kids really want to get me a dog. So this is something I already knew a little about him, right? So when I saw him again, I could say, hey, Craig, did your kids ever talk you into getting that dog? So I already knew a little about it, but it was a good conversation starter, um, so that we could continue the conversation. Okay, compliment them appropriately. Wow, I never noticed before you have such stunning blue eyes. It's appropriate. It's not nice butt or anything like that, right? Um, Play a game. If you're out on a date, let's say, and the conversation is starting to lull, it's like, ooh, let's do two truths and a lie. I was sitting at a lunch with a guy, and he was very chatty on the phone and over, text messaging. I couldn't hardly squeeze anything out of him. I said, let's play a game. And he goes, okay. I'm like, mayonnaise or Miracle Whip? And he's like, oh, mayonnaise. I hate Miracle Whip. And so he caught on really quick. He's like, oh, plain or peanut M&Ms. And so we went back and forth with it for a long time. And even after we left the date, he texted me later and asked me, crunchy or plain peanut butter. Anyway, so we kind of continued it on and kind of made it kind of fun. Okay, you can always talk about food, your favorite food, the locations. Oh, you've been to Maine. I bet you loved the lobster. I mean, talk about cliche. But oh, you were in Texas recently. Did you get some good Texas barbecue? Okay. Food is always a good conversation starter because everybody eats, right? What you do for fun. Okay, that can be a good conversation and that can stretch into other things, right? Once you start talking about what you do for fun, you can talk about other things you do for fun, or that kind of evolves into other things you do for fun, or things you have done for fun. But let's not be competitive and outdo each other when you talk about things like that. Okay, geography, places they've traveled, places they came from. Geography can always come up as a conversation starter. Oh, what was that like? I didn't realize you were born in the Philippines as an American. What was that like? It's like, oh, geez, I don't remember. I was 4 when we left, or whatever, right? So geography is always a good conversation. Okay, let's move on to fun and different questions. Okay, before we start, I just, why do we get so nervous when we talk to a crush? A lot of times it's chemical, right? The sweaty palms and everything. I'm just hoping this helps you make you a little more confident um, in knowing how to approach somebody or to have a conversation. But the fun and different questions you can come up with on your own. You can come up with any fun questions because if you're a little different, you stand out. And hopefully this is, like I said, just building some confidence. What would I never guess about you? What fictional character would you date? 3 words to describe yourself. If money wasn't an issue, what would you buy? What's in that dream? What's in their head? What's their big dream, right? What takes your breath away? And what's something you do every single day? That's part of your routine. Another one I've heard is if you had any superpower, what would you choose? You could have any. Um, So anyways, just fun and different questions. Make yourself memorable. But of course, we're just trying to build some confidence and have some things in your back pocket so that maybe we don't get so nervous around the crush, right? Okay, let's move on to flirting. Again, much funner in a conference setting in person, but eye contact. There's lots of things you can do with your eye, but extended eye contact um, is actually a way of flirting, especially if it comes with a little coy smile. Compliments. Okay, you can make eye contact and give a compliment. Okay, sincere compliment, right? Touching, of course, if we combine some, you could give a compliment and touch at the same time. But breaking the touch barrier in an appropriate way is often a good signal for somebody that you are flirting or that you are interested. Okay, humor and teasing. Be careful of this one. Do not tease something personal. Tease the team they like, maybe the food they're eating. We want to tease something different than something personal, okay? But at the same time, it's a good way to banter, especially like, football teams or basketball teams or things like that. Okay, make sure that your body language is open and you're not shut off. Now, ladies will often, if you approach a lady to the side, often she will end up in front of you, pointing her feet right at you. Okay, Body language is a good way to see if somebody is interested in you or if they're perhaps flirting. Well, we need to give a green light a lot of times, okay? Everybody's feeling a little insecure. The second time around, the third time around, it's scary. So make sure that you know how to give a good green light and give several just to make sure. Okay, smiling. Of course, you see somebody across the room that you might be interested in talking to, smile first. Okay, ask get to know you questions. Act interested in them. Okay, this kind of goes back to the approach. You know, maybe if you know a little something about them, you can find out a little more about them, right? Okay, maybe telling them what you want. You've just had a really fun conversation. Hey, you're really fun. We should go out sometime. Maybe you're at a game night and this person was just fun and funny the whole night and you kind of made eye contact off and on. Tell them, you know what? I think you're really fun. We should go out sometime. This is kind of for the pros, but if you can pull it off, do it. Okay, ladies, if you want to give a guy a green light, ask the guy out. Okay, maybe if you know something about him, ask him out to something that he wants to do. Hey, I heard you're like an expert axe thrower. Would you go out with me and show me how to do it? Okay, this is the ultimate green light. Make sure you're asking them on a date, not a hangout, but then they'll know. And then you don't want to be the guy in the relationship and have them be the girl, right? So after the date, you only ask them out once. You tell them, I would love to go out with you again, but I'm going to let you ask me out next time because you don't want to repeatedly ask them out because that puts you in more of a masculine energy. Okay, why am I attracting all the jerks or jerkettes, right? First of all, toxic people will stay where they are accepted. So you are allowing them to stay. You are letting them enter your life because they will attach to anybody that will allow them to stay. So that is one of them. You're allowing them to stay. Um, this is your comfort zone. Maybe you've had one toxic relationship after another and you just keep attracting more because that's what you're comfortable with. And I think I kind of did that for a while. You never want to be comfortable with bad behavior. And if you turn the corner and start dating more quality people, do not turn the corner and go back. I've seen a lot of people do that. Okay, you have low self-esteem. You really don't feel like you deserve anybody better. In fact, that's what you're looking for because you don't think you deserve anybody better. Watch this one. Okay, desperation. Okay, you're going to take anybody because taking anybody is better than being by yourself. You're just so lonely. Okay, once again, nobody likes that word, but we are that word. We put ourselves in those situations or we put ourselves in that mindset even without knowing it. Okay, Dallin H. Oates said, this is actually in his talk about divorce. And at the end of the talk, he talked about abusive and unfaithful people. So this is the quote. The best way to avoid divorce from an abusive, unfaithful, unsupportive spouse is to avoid marriage to such a person. Here's his awesome advice. If you want to marry well, inquire well. Associations through hanging out or exchanging information on the internet are not a sufficient basis for marriage. There should be dating followed by thorough and thoughtful courtship. There should be ample opportunities to experience the potential spouse's behavior in a variety of circumstances. This is where everybody jokes about the slow internet or bad traffic. I tell people, make sure you can handle them when they're sick, right? Fiancés should learn everything they can about the families with whom they will soon be joined in marriage. In all of this, we should realize that a good marriage does not require a perfect man and a perfect woman. It only requires a man and a woman committed to strive together toward perfection. This is the compatibility we talked about, the bad behaviors, the behavior, you watch their behaviors. Fiancés, sorry, let me speak, should learn everything they can about the families with whom they should soon be joined in marriage. The family has a lot of influence on this person, okay? But I'm going to talk about one of the little things here. If you want to marry well, inquire well. There's different questions we should be asking at different points of the relationship. Okay, establishing compatibility. That's our yellow, that's the foundation, right? We want a foundation of friendship and fun and making memories. Okay, this is the foundation of our relationship is friendship, right? So you're establishing compatibility. You've spent more than 50 minutes with them or 50 hours with them, whatever it is, right? Um, this is the foundation. This is the big part. The second part is gathering information. Okay. This is the part where you want to see them in different situations. Um, what is their financial situation like? Why are they divorced? What was their marriage like if they were widowed? You're gathering all this information. Okay. The third part, and this is before marriage, is you're setting the expectations. Okay, where are we going to live? How are we going to blend the family? How are we going to raise the family together? Are you going to raise your kids and I'm going to raise mine? How is the discipline going? What are we going to do about money? Um, Intimacy, are we on the same page? Okay, so this is different questions that you can ask in different parts of the relationship, but all of them need to be asked. Okay. Um, People who always say, "Oh, we'll figure that out later." I always reference The Golden Bachelor. I totally don't watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Um, but my daughter started watching The Golden Bachelor, and so I kind of thought, "Oh, I'll watch it to kind of connect with her so we can talk about it." And it had a different dynamics than the regular one because all the girls were not catty. They all kind of liked each other and became friends because they were older and more mature, and it was actually kind of cute to watch. But in the end, he picked his woman, and she was from one state and he was from another state across the country, and they kept asking, where are you going to live, where are you guys going to live? And they kept saying, we'll work that out. Well, 3 months after they got married, they divorced because they couldn't work out where they were going to live. So we want to establish the compatibility, the friendship. You want to get all the information you possibly can about a person, and you want to set the expectations for the relationship. Okay. Other ways to put together a relationship is Sharon's 5 C's. I don't know why I did this, 5 C's. I could actually change it at this point, but I've kept it this way. Chemistry. Okay, you need the physical chemistry. You need to be on the same page with the physical chemistry. Physical chemistry is important to a relationship. Then this is our connection, which is our compatibility. We've talked about it 3 times now. Okay, we need to make sure we are compatible, that there is some glue that holds this relationship together, that there is a good foundation, a good solid foundation of compatibility before we get into affection. Okay, now if we watch the RAM model, because a lot of people do the Jerk and Jerkette program, it's like you have to know a person, trust a person, rely on the person, commit to the person, then touch the person, right? I think it's impossible to do that. But before you start kissing, make sure there is a good foundation of friendship. Make sure there is some compatibility. There is something to build the relationship on because, like I said before, once you start the affection, it becomes harder and harder to communicate and conflict resolution. I mean, we tend to do that more brushing under the rug kind of stuff. Which is my next one, communication skills and conflict resolution. This could go anywhere um, above. You could do that before contact. You could do that anywhere, but most of the time people are so happy in the beginning of a relationship, they don't think they're ever going to have conflict or communication problems, right? They're too busy making schmoopy faces at each other. So make sure that we do this before we commit. Okay, so chemistry, compatibility before connection, before affection, right? Communication skills, conflict resolution, and then commitment. This is how I recommend putting a relationship together. Okay, where can you find me? Um, my Facebook page is Dating Again. I will advertise for the Utah people who are interested. I will advertise Dating University on my Facebook page. It will be on Dating Again. I have a personal page and then I have Dating Again. If you join Dating Again, it has this logo. Instagram, I'm dating.again. I have to confess, I don't do a ton on Instagram. When I think about it, I will. I am, of course, the Date to Your Potential podcast on Spotify, and my website is lovingagaincoach.com. Thank you so much for following me clear to the end.